So today I've got this chunk of metal, and I'm going to make a weight for the front of the little John Deere tractor. And basically I've had to handle it with a chain through the hole that's in it. And this is a piece of scrap sitting around on the farm, and I'm not real sure what it came from. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix it where we can handle it. And then we're going to build something out of it from there. So let's see what we can do. Okay, so first things first is we're going to try to make sure that we square this thing as much as possible with the bottom, because I don't want my hitch to be no more crooked than it has to be. And so I'm going to come back here from the back side and check it like that as well. And so that appears to be square with the edge of this thing. Now the edge of this thing's not perfectly straight, but this will be close enough. And I'm going to go ahead and tack it. Well, I don't have a good glue there. That should do it. There we go. Okay, now that's not going to go anywhere. And so now okay, I'm going to come back there with another pass because that was a deep hole. So that's in there. So now we'll get some other stuff put on there. Okay, so I had some diamond plate left over from the truck bed, and I made me a little piece here. This is not entirely necessary, and I'm a little off on my gapping over here. This don't have to be pretty. It's going to be a tractor weight. I just want to kind of help shore this thing in here some before I weld the backside. We've got a hitch, and let me show you here, up close and personal. Now we've got a hitch welded all the way around. There's no holes to get dirt in or anything. If something happens I run into a bank, yeah, we'll plug the hitch full of dirt. Might have something in there. So now we'll move to where we can handle it. So if I put a big ring receiver in the hitch that we have laying around the garage for moving stuff, and now that I've got some leverage, I'm gonna, there's a little bit of weight there in case you're wondering. So now I'm gonna clean up the back side here. Okay, so even though I'm gonna try and make sure this is flush back here, I'm gonna run a flapper wheel over it just to make sure, because we're sitting on the concrete. But back in here, I'm gonna add some weld each side of this just to hold it in there real good. Okay, I believe that will hold. So now we'll make sure this is good and flush, and I'll show you what I'm about to do with this section. Okay, so I drilled 2 holes here. I got to get a little bit bigger drill before I can finish that up, and I'm going to tap those after a bit. So what I have here is I have a 3/8 inch thick piece of aluminum. Now I've got another one just like it laying underneath the here. It's setting my 3/8 inch gap off of this, and I'm going to weld this piece of angle down to the top of it here, and then come back the sides and weld it. It's overhanging each side of this a little bit, but that's good. It's going to help me center this in that bracket, and you'll see that when I go to set it on the tractor. So I'm going to start me a tack back here and make sure everything's where I want it to be at. Okay, so a lot of this is boring, but I drilled 2 holes and tapped them. I finished welding this on here, not a big deal. I cut these slots here because of the way that bracket's made, and you'll see when I mount it why. I took a piece of pipe and cut an 1-inch long piece off of it, which might have been a little too much, but we'll see. I cut a section out of it. Dad had this big ring, and I put it through there, and I might open it up just a little bit to give myself some slop, but I'm going to weld this to the top to give me something to hoist it with, so I can get it on and off the little tractor with my big tractor, because I ain't picking this up. So let me flip it over. I got excited to blow a hole in this end of the pipe, but I was able to get it put back together. So that's not as easy as I'd like for it to be, but it'll be fine. It'll settle there and be just fine. So I guess it all depends on where it's at on that ring too. But that right there works really good.
That'll work, yeah.
So, and there, I can pick it up by that. I might add a little bit more weld to it just to strengthen that up. So. Okay, so it's been a couple weeks, and the last time that I was here, which was just a split second for you guys, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this thing. So I took it home, tested it at the house. It did fit. I needed to widen the rails in the center, and I'll show you that in a second up close and personal. And I had to make a few modifications, because the best way we're going to finish this today is I brought the tractor to the garage. So now let's put this thing on here. We are. So then my 2 bolts that I tapped into the back of it go right there and right there. Now what I had to cut out, that one don't want to start real well. I don't want to like bolt them in there, but I want them to kind of sit in there for now. Good enough. I had to cut these a little wider because of the welds on each side of the I just measured this. I had a skinny one cut, but the weld on each side of it actually kept it from fitting. And then I had to drill these holes out a little bit in this piece right here. They had to make it a little bit bigger because I had them a little high. Not a big deal, but it definitely is heavy. And so now the next thing I want to do is I want to make some bars that come out from here and lean back to protect between the body and the tire of the tractor. And that'll add extra weight to the front of the tractor as well. So let's measure for those. So what I got figured here is I'm going to come back at an angle, and that angle is going to be, I'm going to call that 15 inches, something like that, because I'm going to come back at a pretty steep angle to allow I don't want them sticking out like this right here. I want it to come back at an angle, and that'll come to about the center of the tire. So if I have to make a sharp corner someplace, I've got some wiggle room. And I'm going to weld them on here, and it's going to be a pretty large piece of pipe as a guard and extra weight. So yeah, about 15 inches. So I'm going to go and I'm going to figure out what kind of angle I want to do here, and we'll play around with that. All right, So let me guys show you how I came up with what I came up with. If I can remember how I came up with it, that's trickle by itself. So, got a couple of these speed squares around the shop. And I went to 30 degrees on this and kind of put me a piece of pipe out here to see if I like that angle. And I thought, that angle looks all right, so we're going to shoot for that angle. And then I used our old trusty bandsaw, turned to 30 degrees, and took me a piece of junk pipe I had and cleaned it up on the outside, and went ahead and cut it to 30 degrees. And that's going to be all right. And I cut the end of it to 30 degrees too. Now something I want to do is I want to put this right here so it's not laying against that, and I'll use this piece of metal on the other side to make sure it's right. And I'm also going to use this protractor to make sure that I am level. A lot of moving parts here, you know how that goes. That right there on the center of that bend, and I'm going to use this protractor, and that right there is about where everything sits on the other side. So I'm going to get me a magnet and put on this and hold that in place, use this jack stand to hold the other in place. Then I'll tack a weld on it right there, and that'll be where that lives at. So then I'll tack a weld on it and give you a look at what it looks like afterwards. Okay, so I confess, I made both of them and I've done a little bit more than tack. Yeah, I welded a pretty good bunch around them, but I got to get around the full sides of them. I don't want that just to be it. So the only thing left to do is I've got me a, well, let me grab it over here. I made me a nice little cardboard cutout. That cardboard cutout is the right size to cap these right here. So I'm gonna have to take that cardboard cutout that I just dropped on the ground. There we go. Cut me a couple pieces of metal, probably out of some of that scrap over there behind the torch. But for now, I've got to lift it back up and weld around the bottom sides of that pipe and stuff. And while I'm at it, I'm gonna give it a skiff of spray paint before I put it back on there while it's good and hot. And that way the back side of it gets some paint on it. So let me get set up, pull it off there, and weld and paint and all that good stuff. All right, I'm gonna start out by apologizing because I'm in a hurry today because I gotta try and get home, and I just hurry up and started working, and you know how that does. But check that out. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the intricate sides. I made me a couple plates to cap the ends off there. We'll weld it all the way around there. That weld goes across there, that piece of angle. If you look, those two bolts are all the way in. There's one back down in there and right there. You can see the head of that one. It made my cap on this side. So yes, I know the green is not exactly matching. It'll be fine once it gets a little dirt on it, and we'll skin it up some, I'm sure. I didn't lose any ground clearance on this tractor because it's got the bottom PTO, and so if nothing else, I'm actually protecting the chances of hitting that bottom PTO with this piece. And I've got a trailer I can now back with this right here. I can find me different adaptations to put in that right there. And if I need more weight, I can tie it on to the end of that. And in order to take it off, I just got to take out those two bolts right there, put me a chain on my other tractor, engine hoist or whatever, just lift that D-ring off, and it comes on and off like, you know, not a big deal. But yet with those two 1/2-inch bolts and that piece of angle, there's enough shear there that I'm not going to like pull 20,000 pounds with that ball hitch, but I can do a lot of stuff. So that should keep the little tractor from wanting to do wheelies every time I hook a different implement on the back of it. And if I hook an implement on the back of it that it wants to do wheelies with, well then I probably should question how much weight I'm putting behind it, because I bet you that thing weighs like 350 pounds. It's a solid chunk. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video and you like making contraptions like that right there, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. And then up next, I think I got Jeep stuff. I don't even know where I'm at with all my projects. So yeah, we'll see what's going from there. So guys, we'll see you on the next one.